All right, so it looks like we're diving into Canada this time.
Awesome.
You've provided the ultimate Canada travel guide
Yo.
for us to dig into.
Oh, nice.
And it really is the ultimate guide. It's a whole book, not just a website, not just some articles.
Wow.
We've got a lot to cover. But that's why you're here,
I'm
to
excited.
help me sort through it all.
Absolutely.
So we're talking everything from the Canadian Rockies to the Maritimes to the Arctic,
Wow.
like the whole country.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first thing that strikes me about this guide. It emphasizes just how much variety there is across Canada.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about completely different landscapes, climates, cultures,
That's true.
all in one country, and it's a massive country.
The second biggest in the world, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
So just a reminder that when you're packing for a trip to Canada,
Right.
you're not just packing for one trip, you're packing for several.
It's like multiple trips in one.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, packing for a hiking trip through the Rockies
Yeah.
is going to look very different from a trip to the Maritimes.
Exactly. And, you know, that's one of the first things this guide addresses. It dives into some of those essentials, right, in Chapter 1.
Yeah.
You know, it talks about visa requirements, transportation options, choosing the right time to visit based on what you want to experience.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because do you want to see the northern lights in winter?
Right.
Or are you looking for, like, sunny summer hikes in Banff National Park?
It's totally different.
Completely different experiences. And
Yeah.
the guide kind of helps you make those big decisions early on.
So it's like setting the stage for your adventure,
Exactly.
figuring out the when, the how,
Yeah.
and then you can move on to the where,
Exactly.
which I think is what it does.
Yeah, it dives into those specific regions,
Yeah.
and we really start to see the country unfold.
Okay.
So Chapter 2 takes us straight to Western Canada,
Okay.
the Canadian Rockies and beyond. We're talking Banff, Jasper National Parks. You know, those iconic destinations, those towering peaks reflected in turquoise lakes.
Oh, I've seen pictures. It's gorgeous.
Hiking trails where you might spot elk or even a grizzly bear.
Oh, wow.
It's that true Canadian wilderness experience.
Yeah. Before we go too far into the wilderness, though,
Yeah.
I did notice that the guide also talks about something called the Alberta Badlands.
Oh, yeah.
What are the Badlands?
The Badlands. Well, imagine like a completely different landscape.
Okay.
Stark, almost Martian landscapes, you know.
Oh, wow.
Hoodoos rising from the plains. Dinosaur fossils just scattered across the Badlands.
Really?
It's this stark contrast to the lush mountain scenery.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so fascinating about Western Canada.
Oh,
You can have these incredible juxtapositions within like a single region.
That's true. So you could be, starting in the mountains and then end up in, like you said, an almost prehistoric landscape
Yeah.
within just a couple of days.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. But Western Canada is more than just Alberta, right?
Oh, so much more.
Yeah.
The guide goes into British Columbia as well, which has those vibrant cities and the Pacific coastline.
Right.
So you got Vancouver,
Mm-hmm.
that incredible blend of city life and nature.
Yeah, and then there's Whistler.
Oh, yes, Whistler, a world-renowned ski destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's a winter wonderland, perfect for skiing, snowboarding,
Yeah.
or even just cozying up in a chalet.
Oh, nice.
But the Pacific coast offers so much more than the mountains. I mean, imagine driving along that coastline, spotting whales just breaching offshore or surfing in Tofino.
Oh, no.
It's a completely different side of British Columbia.
All right, you've convinced me. I'm adding all of this to my list.
Definitely.
But okay, we got to move on from the West Coast now
Yeah, let's head east.
and head east.
Into the heart of Canada.
Yeah, to Ontario and Quebec.
Ontario and Quebec.
Chapter 3, what do we got?
Chapter 3. This is where we really get into the cultural heartland of Canada.
Okay.
Bustling cities, historical landmarks,
Mm-hmm.
and that unique blend of French and English influences.
Right.
And we start in Toronto,
Okay.
Canada's largest city,
Yeah.
a true cosmopolitan hub.
I've heard it described as like a mini New York City.
You know, there are definitely some similarities there.
Yeah.
You've got that vibrant energy, diverse population,
Mhm.
incredible food,
Okay.
a thriving arts and culture scene.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't miss the CN Tower
Right.
and those panoramic views.
Yeah.
But Toronto also has amazing museums,
Okay.
art galleries,
Mm-hmm.
neighborhoods like Kensington Market,
Yeah.
which is this eclectic mix of vintage shops and cafes and international flavors.
Okay, so there's something for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but what about Ottawa?
Ottawa.
Much is like it.
Ottawa's got a very different feel.
Okay.
It's a city steeped in history and politics.
Right, the capital.
Exactly. You've got Parliament Hill, the Rideau Canal,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of national museums. You can see the changing of the guard.
Oh, cool.
Stroll along the Rideau Canal,
Mm-hmm.
which of course turns into like the world's largest skating rink in winter.
Really?
Yeah. Or you can, dive deep into Canadian history
Okay.
at the Canadian Museum of History.
All right, so we've got Toronto and Ottawa.
Yes.
But we can't forget about Montreal.
Montreal. Oh, Montreal is a gem.
What's it like?
It's like stepping into Europe.
Okay.
Cobblestone streets,
Huh.
historic architecture,
Yeah.
that undeniable French flair.
Okay.
Old Montreal is a must-see.
Yeah.
Charming cafes, boutiques.
Hmm.
You've got to see the Notre Dame Basilica.
Oh, yeah.
And the food.
Yeah.
Oh, from classic French bistros to poutine stands.
Right.
Montreal's culinary scene is just incredible.
Now, speaking of iconic landmarks, we can't forget Niagara Falls, which I think is in this chapter as well.
It is?
It's one of the things you have to see,
Oh,
at
absolutely.
least once in your life.
And I like how the guide doesn't just showcase the spectacle of the falls.
Ooh.
It goes into the history, the geology, explains how they were formed
Right.
and how they impacted, the surrounding communities.
Okay. Yeah, so it's more than just
Yeah, it's not just a pretty picture.
a pretty picture. Yeah.
There's a whole story there.
Yeah.
And speaking of stories, Chapter 4 takes us on this journey through Atlantic Canada,
Okay.
the Maritimes.
I've always wanted to go there.
Think coastal drives, charming fishing villages,
Yeah.
lighthouses perched on those dramatic cliffs,
Oh, yeah.
and seafood so fresh.
Now we're talking.
It's a completely different pace of life
Yeah, that's what I like about it.
than the bustling cities and mountains that we've been talking about.
Right. Are there any highlights there?
Oh, so many. You can't talk about Atlantic Canada without mentioning Peggy's Cove in Nova Scotia. It's that classic postcard image.
I've seen pictures. Yeah.
The quaint fishing village with the iconic red and white lighthouse perched on a granite outcrop.
Yeah.
And then there's the Cabot Trail,
Oh, what's that?
a scenic highway that winds along the coast of Cape Breton Island,
Nice.
offering those stunning ocean views,
Oh, great.
charming little villages along the way.
So it's more than just pretty scenery, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The Maritimes have history and culture, too.
The guide dives into the unique history of each province,
Oh, cool.
shaped by the indigenous peoples, European settlers,
Right.
and of course the ocean itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about that warm hospitality of the locals.
Yeah.
The traditional music that just fills the pubs,
Mm.
the festivals that celebrate the region's heritage.
And the seafood.
Oh, the
You
seafood.
can't forget the seafood.
It's like a culinary pilgrimage.
Absolutely.
The guide talks about all the lobster, oysters, mussels,
Mm-hmm.
fish that's so fresh, it's almost like it jumps onto your plate.
That's what I want.
It even mentions some of the seafood festivals
Oh, nice.
where you can sample like all the regional specialties.
Okay, I'm hungry.
Yeah, me too.
But we've got to keep going because
Oh,
there's more to this guide.
Yeah.
And Chapter 5, I think, is particularly interesting because it covers a part of Canada
Yes.
that a lot of people just completely overlook,
It's true.
the Northern Territories.
Chapter 5. This is where the real adventure begins.
Okay.
We're going to the Yukon, the Northwest Territories, and Nunavut.
Wow. I mean, that's
Serious wilderness.
vast, untamed wilderness.
Yeah.
You've got breathtaking Northern Lights displays.
Uh-huh.
And it's a chance to experience those indigenous cultures
Right.
that have thrived in these, challenging landscapes
Yeah. For millennia.
for a very long time.
So I'm imagining dog sledding, spotting polar bears.
Yes. Seeing the Aurora Borealis.
All of it.
But it does seem a little intimidating.
Yeah.
Are there any challenges there?
Yeah, it's not your average vacation.
Right.
The guide really emphasizes that you need to plan and prepare thoroughly if you're going to the north.
Okay.
Because we're talking about, massive distances, limited infrastructure, and extreme weather.
So it's not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not. But for those who are seeking that real wilderness adventure,
Yeah.
it's something else. It's an experience that will stay with you forever.
Yeah.
And the guide also really makes a point of saying responsible travel is so important up there.
Oh, right.
Especially in these regions. It's about minimizing your impact on the environment,
Mm-hmm.
respecting the indigenous cultures,
Yeah.
and supporting the local communities.
Yep.
So it's not just about, checking destinations off the list.
Right.
It's about engaging with these places
Yeah.
and their people
Right.
in a meaningful and respectful way.
I like that. All right, so we've done mountains, coastlines,
You're all over.
gone to the Arctic.
Yes.
But what's next?
Well, we've talked about some of Canada's iconic national parks already.
Yeah.
But Chapter 6 is where we really delve into them.
Okay.
And it's not just Banff and Jasper anymore.
Right.
We're talking about parks like Gros Mornay National Park in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Okay.
Ever heard of the Tablelands?
The Tablelands. Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Okay, well, picture this.
Okay.
It's a landscape that almost looks like it belongs on another planet.
Okay.
These flat-topped mountains with exposed rock formations that are millions of years old.
Wow.
They were formed when the Earth's tectonic plates collided,
Oh, wow.
pushed up the ocean floor, and created this unique geological marvel.
So it's like stepping back in time.
It is.
That's amazing. So you could be hiking through like lush forests one day and then be in this completely otherworldly landscape the next.
Exactly. That's the beauty of Canada.
It's a country of such incredible contrasts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I like how Chapter 6 explores that.
It does.
All these different types of parks.
Yeah, it takes you from the Rockies
Yeah.
to the Atlantic, everything in between.
Right, and of course we can't talk about the parks without mentioning the wildlife.
Oh, of course not.
I'm thinking moose, beavers, maybe even a grizzly bear.
You might see a bear.
Oh, yeah.
Or whales.
Right. But the guide emphasizes that we need to view wildlife responsibly.
It does.
Right.
You're right. It's not just about getting that perfect photo.
Right.
It's about observing the animals from a safe distance, respecting their habitat,
Yeah.
minimizing your impact on their environment.
Right. So, like, it gives examples of how to do that.
Yeah. Like in Churchill, Manitoba,
Mm-hmm.
which is, considered the polar bear capital of the world.
Oh, wow.
They have these amazing tours where you can observe the polar bears safely
Yeah.
without disrupting their natural behavior.
So they're not interfering.
It's exact.
Okay, that's great.
And it's not just the polar bears.
Oh, right.
The guide also talks about whale watching tours off the coast of British Columbia.
Okay.
So you can see orcas, humpback whales,
Wow.
even gray whales when they're migrating.
And grizzly bear viewing.
Oh, of course, in the Rockies.
Okay, so it really is like you could see everything.
You can.
Yeah. But all this exploring is making me hungry.
Yeah, me too.
So luckily, I think Chapter 7 has something to offer us.
It does, Chapter 7. This is where we indulge in all the delicious food that Canada has to offer.
Okay.
So it's a journey that takes us from coast to coast,
Mm-hmm.
highlighting regional specialties, cultural influences,
Yeah.
and that farm-to-table movement that's really growing.
Oh, the farm-to-table movement.
It's big in Canada.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that.
It's more than just a trend.
Mhm.
It's like this deeper connection to the land.
Right.
And this desire to showcase local ingredients. The guide talks about chefs who are using seasonal produce,
Mm-hmm.
meats, and seafood sourced directly from nearby farms and fisheries.
Okay.
So you're getting fresh, delicious food,
Mhm.
and you're supporting the local economy.
It's a win-win.
Exactly.
But it's not just the fancy restaurants, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
The guide also encourages exploring local markets,
Mhm.
street food vendors,
Okay, yeah.
sampling poutine in Montreal, fresh oysters in Halifax,
Mhm.
even just like a butter tart from a local bakery.
Okay, now I'm getting really hungry.
Yeah.
But before we head off in search of food,
Okay.
what else is in this guide? Because we've talked about nature, culture, the food, but what about festivals or special events?
Oh, yes. Chapter 8 is all about Canada's vibrant festival scene.
Okay.
And there are so many. It's a whirlwind of music, culture, and celebration from coast to coast.
Oh, well, all ears.
Well, you can't talk about Canadian festivals without mentioning the Calgary Stampede.
The Calgary Stampede, right?
10 days of rodeo, music, parades,
Okay.
all things Wild West.
Nice.
Then there's the Montreal Jazz Festival,
Oh, nice.
world-class musicians.
So we've got, like, cowboy boots
Yeah,
and smooth jazz.
exactly.
What else is there?
Well, the guide highlights a bunch of different events,
Mm-hmm.
from film festivals like the Toronto International Film Festival
Oh, yeah.
to cultural celebrations like the Celtic Colors International Festival in Cape Breton,
Good.
which showcases that region's rich musical traditions.
Okay, so there really is something for everyone.
There is.
But it's not just about the big city events, right?
No.
Yeah.
The guide encourages exploring the smaller local events as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Like farmers markets, craft fairs, community gatherings. It's about experiencing the heartbeat of a place,
Yeah.
connecting with the people,
Right.
and celebrating the unique character of each region.
I like that a lot.
Mm.
All right. So with all this to see and do, though,
Mm.
how do you plan a trip to Canada?
Well, Chapter 9 comes to the rescue.
Go.
It's all about the practical tips and logistics of traveling in Canada.
So let's talk transportation. What's the best way to get around this place?
Well, the guide breaks down a few different options and talks about the pros and cons of each.
Okay.
So you've got road trips, which give you the freedom to explore at your own pace.
Right.
But the distances are vast,
Oh.
so you might want to consider train journeys,
Oh, wow.
especially for those scenic routes through the Rockies
Yeah.
or along the coast.
Right.
And then there's always domestic flights, which can save time
Yeah.
for those longer distances.
Okay, so it depends what you're looking for.
Exactly.
But what about safety? What do we need to know about staying safe?
Well, the guide emphasizes that you need to be prepared, informed, and aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going into the wilderness
Yeah.
or exploring more remote areas.
Right, so pack the right gear.
Yes, appropriate gear.
Check the weather.
Absolutely, check those weather
Or
conditions.
let somebody know where you're going.
Tell someone your plans.
Okay.
And just be mindful of potential hazards, like wildlife,
Yeah.
challenging terrain.
Right, so it's not about being reckless, it's about being prepared.
Exactly.
But all this exploring has to cost money.
It does. It does.
Wow.
What about budgeting?
Well, the guide has some good tips for that.
Okay.
It's about finding that balance between, comfort and affordability.
Okay.
So it suggests doing your research on accommodations.
Mm-hmm.
There's everything from budget-friendly hostels to luxurious hotels.
Okay.
It also suggests planning your meals in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe taking advantage of free activities.
Yeah.
Like hiking and exploring parks and maybe packing your own snacks
Right. That's a good tip.
when possible.
Yeah.
And setting aside a little bit of an emergency fund
Yeah.
for those unexpected expenses.
Okay. That's always good advice.
Always good to be prepared. But now let's talk about Chapter 10, because
Yeah.
this one sounds really fun.
Chapter 10 is all about those extra special things that make a trip truly memorable.
All right.
So it's about immersing yourself in the culture,
Mm-hmm.
engaging with the locals,
Okay.
creating memories that will last a lifetime.
I like that. So it's more than just the tourist attractions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the guide offers some tips on how to do that.
Okay.
It encourages you to step outside your comfort zone, try new things,
Yeah.
strike up conversations with the locals,
Right.
savor those unexpected moments of discovery.
All right. So we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
We've gone from the Rockies
Yes.
to the Maritimes
Mm-hmm.
to the Arctic.
The whole country.
My head is spinning with all the possibilities.
Mine too. But what really stood out to me, amidst all these details, is how this guide encourages you to go beyond just seeing Canada.
Yeah.
It's about experiencing it
Yeah, I completely agree.
deeply and authentically.
Yeah, being present in every moment.
Yes.
Engaging all your senses.
Yes.
Creating those memories that you'll take with you.
That will last.
Yeah.
Well said. I think it's time for a little break.
Yeah, let's take a break.
Let all this sink in.
Yeah, we've got a lot to process.
And then we'll come back and continue our deep dive into this ultimate guide to Canada.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so we're back. And I've been thinking about all the amazing wildlife encounters the guide talks about.
Oh yeah, especially in the national parks.
It's not just the landscapes, it's those moments where you spot a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
Or whales breaching offshore.
Those are the things you remember.
I think so too.
They really connect you to that wild side of Canada.
Yeah, and the guide does a great job of not just saying, go see the wildlife.
Right.
But it talks about responsible wildlife tourism, which is really important.
It is. It's more than just getting a picture.
Yeah.
It's about respecting the animals,